What do you say, Tripty?
Here we go.
Hold on. Give me 1 minute. 1 minute. I'm gonna do record too. All right. Well, it's fun. Got it. And John is gonna be coming on right now. Okay, Tripty.
Hi. So excited for tech school this week. My name is Tripti. I am the founder of Pitch Perfect, a platform that is aiming to bring gender equality to venture capital. Can't wait to tell you guys about it a different time. But for now, we are starting with a recap of San Diego Startup Month currently.
All right. Thanks, Tripty. You were very modest on that because I thought you were gonna get in some numbers. We're gonna talk about, but we'll have that going. But I know what Pitch Perfect is. We are gonna try to do an event around that. So Tripty, we'll have people like coming soon. We'll give them a date, such and such. That'd be great. Professor Clark, I know you are multitasking. Thank you for coming on. Joanna, thanks for coming on too. The key thing on this is that it was a full month of kind of startup stuff, right? It was Startup San Diego month. We usually have a week, but it was a month for the last couple of years. And it was just a lot of data that I got. I can go over some of the things what we learned. But in general, not everyone go or in San Diego, or not a lot of people go to these kind of events. But when I kind of want to give like an overview on how I prepare to go on, and a little overview on what you can expect. I spoke at a lot of these events. Um, Give me 1 minute. I had YouTube Live going on the other side. But with that all being said, Professor Clark, can you just give a quick intro about you and Innovation Hub?
Yeah, welcome everybody again to Tech School. I'm glad to be here. My name is Sam Clark. I'm an assistant professor of entrepreneurship at Cal State San Marcos, and also one of the directors of the Innovation Hub. And we're just launching that and opening it up. We've got a new space all set up, and so we're welcoming people into that space to start working on their ideas and building those out. So there's a couple of events coming up. With a quick pitch event for those who would like to share a little bit about their idea. We have a quick pitch event. It's been moved to December 8th if you've received previous emails and marketing about that, but we're going to be doing that on December 8th at 6 p.m. at the Innovation Hub. It should be a really fun, enjoyable chance to come listen to entrepreneurs pitch their ideas. Also, we have an Innovation Challenge, which is a student organization challenge. So if you're a part of a student organization on campus, connect with your student org leaders to learn more about that. But grateful to be here, talk with you guys again.
You know, one thing, Professor Clark, you've always with startup month or startup week, they've always had you being a judge, right, at pitch competitions, right? Like our startup weekend, right?
Yeah, participate in being judge, or we've done panel discussions with Startup Week before with Focus, mentoring. So there's a lot of different opportunities to get involved at Startup Week, Startup Month. So
One thing I know offhand with these type of events, there's always going to be some sort of pitch competition. That's just, in fact, I believe we had three major ones. We had this kind of lightweight division of pitch competition that we did for certain groups that were like early stage. We did this heavyweight group that's kind of like more, think of like groups that have already launched. And I was thinking about you, Tripty, for the heavyweight competition, right? Because those are very traditionally done, right? There's judges, review pitches, and then we give our feedback and give it like some sort of score, right? You won, right? I know your platform is see how we can make that a little bit more inclusive. And then we had this kind of incubator that we did all month, and then we had a pitch competition for that, right? So one thing I found out is anytime when I was younger, anytime there was any type of startup month or startup week or something like that, one thing I did is I went back to my pitch deck and revisit that. Right, that's how I prepared as a founder because I knew I was going to go in and it was going to give me visibility. And so I would have my friends look at my pitch deck. This is way before the conference starts. I would actually, USC professors would help me understand how the pitch would actually go. I did all types of, I guess, these kind of preliminary, right? You have to think about it. Like I did sports in school, and yes, we had regular season where we kind of worked, and then we had these playoffs and we had championship. Like so, I always would, in some ways, relate to that because these are like tournaments, right? If you in basketball, we have this kind of final, we have this Final Four or March Madness. That's what it kind of, when I think of startup month or startup week, it feels like it's a tournament, right? So I'm getting prepared for the tournament. So that's one way I prepare. I prepare myself and prepare like how I'm gonna tell my story. One, on the stage, that's one, and two, most of the time you have all these little collisions. Alex Waters from Connect All always says collisions are great for startups, meaning when you meet someone and it might only be for 5 minutes, but you might have to do your 30 seconds or your elevator. You have many of these collisions. And I think I always say with our cohorts, like, can you guys just give me your 30 seconds? I do those a lot because I want you guys to get ready for these collisions that you have at things like Startup Month. So I used to always pitch to like either my sister or I would pitch to some of my friends or things of that nature just to get ready for all those collisions I was going to have. And I remember one time, and that's how we kind of got our word focus. Just so you guys know, I'll repeat the story. But one of the reasons why how we got the word focus is that when Little Curling was little, I was in Silicon Valley, and there's a group called Sequoia Capital. They funded Facebook and Apple and Google and everything. So they're like a kind of gold standard on VCs. And I was talking to some of them. They liked some of the stuff that I was doing, and but they said, Curling, you know what? You have some really great ideas. Oh, I've seen some of the stuff you've done, but these are like hobbies to you. You really need to focus on one thing, right? So he said, like, when you pitch me, just pitch one thing, right? Just be right. I know you got all these other things you're thinking about. You're thinking of that. That's why sometimes I get on some of the cohorts like, okay, I just want you to pitch one thing because usually people can only handle one thing, right? So that's how we got the word focus. Is really because one of the founders, Curling, was not focused, right, when he was little, and so that was a key thing for me is that these collisions had to be really focused, had to be just about one thing, and usually it had to be something. What I did learn from the group at Sequoia Capital, I had to tell them two things. This is one thing that I learned from it. He said he wanted to see the passion I had for what I was doing. That was one he wanted to see, and the second thing he wanted to see is like how good I knew the market. Like even though it even be, he said, okay, what's the market size for that? Like even if it was that simple, because he wanted to know that he's going to be educated by me, right? So these collisions, all these things like that, I was not prepared. Sometimes I would just walk into these conferences. Now I don't just walk in. I kind of prepare. So that's what one way I wanted to kind of you guys to think about it is that it becomes an environment where you guys get visibility, but usually you're preparing like a month before these type of things. You're preparing for the pitch event that you're going to be part of. You're preparing for all these type of collisions. And I think you're preparing, even for me, and this is things that I'm still learning now, is how you really need a story tell. Because me storytelling the Sequoia Capital was much different than if I met Tripti there, right? Or if I met Sunny there, or if I met Professor Clark, who could be a great mentor there. So I even had to modify even my 30 seconds depending on who that person I was talking to. So I used to wind up doing like getting someone's card and like, oh, this person is actually from Ideal Labs, and whoa, they actually helped fund this great company I like. Okay, I would switch what that story block, and I think we talked about that last week about having these story blocks where it's just this one piece of information that you know offhand and you just know it, right? So that's part of this kind of preparation as a founder, right? I think there's other preparations you have to do if you're like a Professor Clark who's going to be a judge and you're going to be meeting people that maybe will come in the Innovation Hub. But so this is a different way. But this is an open session, and you guys can ask me questions anytime you want.
I have some thoughts.
Trippy, yeah.
One is it's actually in the preparation of what
Yeah.
you're talking about, right? So in this case, I agree, be over prepared, right? what does that preparation look like? It's much more than do everything in 30 seconds. It's
Yeah.
what do you want people to walk away from in 30 seconds? So I'm very big on repeating, like, I'm Sunny Bates, Black Logic's, I'm Black Logic's founder. And did you know, like introduce, did you know that contractors overspend by 40%? Did you know that the average, thing takes 4 days to close? Did you know that like we could do this in 24 hours? Like whatever that is, I say repeat, repeat, repeat. The second is, and this is really important to me, specifically as, a founder and what I tell other female founders. So there's a lot of talk about, I think a lot of people talk about imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people talk about, promotion versus prevention questions. But it's like it sort of is like dehumanized, where like we just accept it. Like, okay, well, we're going to be asked these questions. And there's a very, very popular study that was done, and it was using Techstars from 2010 to 2016 of prevention questions versus promotion questions. So again, we've discussed this sort of, but hey, the difference between, oh my God, Sunny, why don't you partner with Amazon and you guys can do great things, as opposed to, and then like thought, oh my God, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, as opposed to, hey, Sunny, can't Amazon just do this tomorrow? Each one of those prevention questions were proven to actually cost the founder every question. I'm going to be super specific here. Every question cost the founders almost $4 million. Each prevention question costs $4 million. It's 3.8 million. The way out of that situation, because you can't control the bias that you're going to be, confronted with, but the way out of that situation is to answer it in a promotion way, so that you guide the conversation back to promotion. Yeah, you know what? Amazon totally could. Number one, it's not their core competency. Number two, the last times that Amazon partnered with someone like us, they grew by 700%. Like, bring it back to promotion. That's a really important part of prep, is
I love that.
understanding where your risk is, what people are likely to say. Is your space congested? Are there major competitors? What is your niche? Understanding your space, to Curling's point, understanding it inside out. It's your DNA. Your 30 seconds, your 1 minute, your 3 minute, but also understanding the way to answer those questions that you're like get in a way that brings the conversation back to growth, is really essential.
I love that, Trippy, especially when you actually say, Brianna says she loves that too. Brianna, you have a question? I get this so often. Oh, can't care.com do that? I love that, Brianna. We gotta get promotion feedback on that one. That's a great one, Brianna. The one thing I like in there, what you said, Tripty, and this is kind of even with pitch events, you might have 10 slides in your head, but Joanna's online. She has all these like maybe another 20 addendum ones that we use for that, Tripty. When someone says, why don't you partner with Amazon? And then we have this slide here where, well, this is what our core company, and this is what Amazon. So it's good to have these kind of other addendum, slide decks, if you want to call it, in your head to do some of that. But Trippy, let me ask you a question offhand. What Brianna just said, she always gets this, why can't care.com do that? What she does, what sits and hides.
I think you have to answer it in a fun way with saying, we love what care.com is doing and what they've built, because you want to show that you could build something like that, right? Yeah. We love them. We love what they built. In fact, it validates the growth that we see here. But if you look at the biggest, concerns about care.com, if you look at their reviews, it's that they don't really serve the elderly population. They really are, like, most people that come in, or their Facebook ads, they target are parents of children. And we think we could do exactly what they did and use their exact model and help a population that's been underserved. Boom, you're back to, we love what they're doing. So you're validating this investor's concern of, well, care.com, but you're also using care.com's growth for you instead of the size of them against you. And so that's what I'm saying, is like, every time that you have a chance to pivot, to show that you know the space and that you can do it better and that you love what they're doing, that's what you need to do every time.
I love that, Tripty. Professor Clark, if little Sam was there, getting ready to go to startup month, how what would you tell him to prepare to going to a conference of that nature? And he's a founder too. We're coming from that founder's lens.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that when we're talking about sharing our ideas, our entrepreneurial opportunities, I've really come to appreciate developing your own framework, right, of how things fit together in your mind, because it allows you to adapt very quickly to the people you're talking with. And so it's not just memorizing a pitch, but having kind of a general framework. And I use that in all my, the way I teach, but also the way I talk about my own startups, my own business opportunities. Is I use a framework, and that allows you to be really adaptive to what the circumstances come up during the conversation. Because yeah, there's these pitch competitions, but when you really go to these startup conferences, the entire time, every conversation you have with every person is about your startup and their startup.
Yes.
It's really just thousands of people just sharing ideas with each other. And so I think you're going to have different audiences. You're going to be talking to, in a quick pitch scenario, you have a specific audience. But when you're just wandering the halls, you're going to be talking to investors. You're going to be talking to other entrepreneurs. You're going to be talking to people that might be potential business partners, things of that nature. So I think having a framework is a good structure going into one of these conferences. And I think another thing, just kind of generally preparing, is know the people you do want to talk to, because they're likely there at the conference. If they're anybody of importance in the startup world, that's why you're there, Curling. Yeah. They're going to be there. So look up the people, find out who, when they're going to be there. They're probably speaking at certain times, and make sure you attend those events of the people you want to meet.
I like that, Professor Clark, because there's certain groups that are like, I really want to meet this group here. And I always tell them, like, see where they're going to go speaking at, because what happens when they go speak, they're usually they're in this kind of education mode, right? So even when you have them in that type of mindset, and after they speak or before they speak, they're already in this education mindset. So when you talk to them, maybe ask them a question about something that they maybe are really deeply passionate about, and that can start the conversation versus just doing these cold calls or things of that nature. That's just a better, I think, outcome you're going to get by doing that. So I like how you said, yeah.
And I was going to say, and even more to that, if you really are looking to connect with somebody, it's a value exchange. And so the best thing to do would be maybe to volunteer at that speaking engagement, introduce the speaker or to assist with questions. Because once you volunteer and the value is added, then they're more likely to spend time with you and maybe even talk a little bit about your startup, right? Because one challenge you'll have these speakers go up and present, they also get bombarded with the 100 people who have attended the event, and they don't have time to chat. But if you're the one person who volunteered your time to assist, then you're more likely to catch their attention and be able to spend a few minutes talking with them, maybe even be able to connect later on during the week or the month or whatever, when things are a little bit slower. But I think if you can show your value add to what they're doing, then you're going to get rewarded in return.
I love that, and that's my go-to, Professor Clark. I always volunteer for events that, and it actually always helps, because you're like, people can see you working on your service, and you're servicing and helping people. And then if you ask for help, people are like, you know what, Curling, I'm definitely going to help you with that connection, that warm lead, because you helped all these people this week. I know I have Joanna on too. One thing, Joanna, you always help with even preparing, and even you even help with the end part of it, where you're like, all right, this is our next kind of like action plan too. I don't want to leave that out in the whole process, even though we'll go deeper in, but you have a really great process on all that. Oh, and I think you're on mute too. Let's see. There you go. Yeah, it's better.
I always forget I'm double muted.
Double muted.
So we got a mute on the microphone and a mute on the app.
The app, yeah.
So I kind of prefer to be like the wingman,
Yeah,
Like I kind of follow you around and tuck business cards in your hand and take the business cards out of your hand,
that's true.
and then we sit down at the end and we go through everything and make a list of like which of these are things we want to follow up on and which of these can we put on the back burner. Which are critical and time sensitive and which can we take a little more time. But that's for sure part of the process. You want to be thinking through before you're going to these events, like what are the outcomes that you want? What types of connections are you looking for? And then like I love Tripty's tips for focusing the conversation to sort of what your endpoint is. You just want to create awareness of your brand, but also you might want to, you might want to generate sales leads, or you might want to learn more about different programs, or I don't know, you might want to just sort of establish yourself in a new community or with a new group of people. So just thinking about what your outcomes are before you go to the event, and then sort of immediately follow up. I think
That's a good
I
one.
give out my contact information like 25 times for each event, and maybe
Okay.
one of those people actually follows up with me. And
Got it.
like that's what happened on last Friday. Was Carly and I both met tons of people, and one person from all the people that we met followed up with both of us.
Well, that's true. Right, right.
Just one person from all those people. And so if you're that one person, that's great. Like you really stand out, because it's not like hundreds of people are going to follow up. Most people are not going to follow up.
That's a great point. And a few more people follow up, but they use different avenues, like so LinkedIn one. So I would say like, okay,
So you had
never-
a couple. I only had one.
yeah, I had a lot
You're
come
more
from.
fun.
No, I just had a lot. You went into more deeper conversations with groups, which is great. A lot of people just want to interact with me because they've only seen me all month, in
true.
virtual, right? So they just. But I would say that certain people will just. What I would tell Lil Curling is that use LinkedIn, maybe do that, but also email too. And like, hey, I did that. Like, use different channels with people, because I'm not really a big LinkedIn person. But I
Yeah.
just seen like a lot of things. But if you email me, like, oh, that's great. I'll totally email you back, right? So use different channels
Yeah.
with people too after you did that initial warm talk, and at least they know your face and know your know at least what kind of relationship what that's going to be.
I guess the other thing I would say is don't feel pressured to, if people are following up with you and they're saying, I want to have a call, like if you feel like that relationship is not, it's not a call relationship, you could just send them a document, or or you felt like it wasn't a fit. Like, don't be afraid to just, be polite, but you don't have to give them 2 hours of your time.
I love that. Professor Clark, offhand, when you're at events before, was there like like I'll give you an example now. I just want to know how you kind of interact with people. I usually have it where I talk with people, at least understand where they're coming from. I even take little notes in my head, and then after I'm done, I take little notes like, oh, I might write on the back of a business card, oh, they need help with getting credits from AWS. So there's like a process you go with. I love how you said framework, right? Is there some framework to keep maybe the people you talk to, or do you use anything or anything tricks on that part, or does Whitney is like she's your wingman, wing woman who helps you? I'm curious, because they always people come up to you all the time. Like when you're on campus, there's tons of people.
Yeah, I don't know if I use anything special. I wish I did, because it's probably a weakness, right? And when it comes to it, I usually don't even take business cards. I mean, I go straight to LinkedIn, because I just feel like I'm not going to keep a business card in anywhere handy, right? So
Okay, got it.
so to me, in a lot of cases, I here's what the one trick sometimes I'll use when I'm meeting a lot of people is I'll just take a picture of their ID, like their name tag, right?
Okay,
I'll
nice.
take a picture and then I'll go look them up on LinkedIn afterwards. It saves a lot of time of because there is a lot of that back and forth where you're exchanging information or business cards. And I don't find that it's kind of, you only have a few minutes with everybody.
Sure.
And so sometimes I'll just take my phone out and be like, I'm just going to snap a picture. We'll look you up on LinkedIn. And then then we can move on with the conversation. And if the conversation's good, I'll make sure I look them up.
I agree.
If the conversation doesn't go anywhere, then I have no purpose, and I might not have a purpose.
You have to follow up. Yeah. I think curling does that too with the taking the pictures of the business cards. But I also have seen like people are like, oh, this is my last business card. So just like, don't take people's last business card, just take a picture of it. Especially like young startup founders, like they got limited budget. Maybe they only printed 20 cards ever. And so just, take a picture and let people keep their cards.
Brianna had a question, and this is to you, Professor Clark, on what tips on altering your speech, your framework, maybe your story block when you're looking to recruit maybe a technical co-founder, or just like what would you change in that?
I think this is probably one of the most difficult pitches. I mean, that you're going to make to somebody you're considering for technical founder. And the reason why is that if you are a very good technical, if you're a software engineer of some type, for example, you're getting hit with thousands of ideas because there are thousands of people just like you who are looking for technical founders. I think and companies are looking to hire these people. And so it is by far one of the most challenging things that you're going to look at. Most of the time, people who have technical skills will talk to you if there's money involved, right? So, and that's the dilemma. You're a new startup. You don't have funds to hire a technical type founder. You don't need, so you're at a disadvantage in some regard to that point. And so it becomes a little bit of a challenge. I think you have to have clear value propositions that point to an opportunity for them to be significantly rewarded beyond what they can make. You imagine that most software engineers are paid fairly well to just show up to work and do work, not found a business. And so if you're founding a business, there's got to be a certain amount of reward that justifies their time. What I typically do, and I think Curling, you could probably comment to this a little bit too, is I try to grab them not to be a founder, but to help with some small pieces until they can realize the vision beyond it. So you might just ask them, hey, could what would you do for this? And typically they can jump on and give you some of my co-founders who are technical, and I've had them help me work on like 3 lines of code that I was writing, and it's like, I'm stuck.
Yeah,
I've been working on this. Any chance that you can help me? And they come in and they'll make some modifications, but it allows them to kind of get involved without committing and without you committing. And I think that might be a strategy used to get technical founders, is have them help on small little lines of code or things that you're working on, or give you suggestions. And then when they start to realize your effort that you're putting into it, they start to realize the value that might come from it, then they're more likely to jump on as a technical founder.
I like that, Professor Clark, because it's kind of little by little. You want people to get engaged a little bit on what you're doing, and at the same time, Brianna, this is what I always have done, especially with technical groups. Technical people really like to learn. I think everyone likes to learn, right? But if you create, like for Citizen Hive, this culture of learning, meaning that you can tell them like, hey, you know what? I'm going to this event, that's related to something that maybe be technical or even non-technical, and you want to come, right? So going to events together is really kind of good. I've done that a lot. Joanna knows, for the first Engineers for Focus, anytime there was some sort of pitch event, or if there's some sort of engineering event or something like that, I would find out where those events were, and we would all go together, just so they can learn and understand the broader world of business, the broader world of like technical things, because they can go to Google, but they might not get that personal care that, Brianna, you might say like, oh, I know you really are into cryptocurrency. There's this event, there's this meetup that's downtown. Why don't you go, or I'll pay the ticket for it, right? Like that is something that Google will not do, or Facebook will not do, right? But Brianna, you could do that, and that person that well, that they like cryptocurrency or they like anime or whatever. But you make it like an environment where you really care about them first, and them helping them is like I say it's like it's a priority actually a lot. I think I told everyone currently right now, one of our lead engineers, I'm helping him learn how to drive. And so every Saturday, John knows I've been going out. He takes my car, he's driving, doing that. This Friday coming up, we're going to DMV. He's taking my car. Like, that is the level that CEOs should do to get people, because Google's not going to help them learn how to drive, right? It may give you some money, but we as CEOs need to look at it as that this is like a family member. This is someone who's really crucial, and how can you help them in other things too? So that's kind of my thought process. One, making a great learning environment, and two, do your best to help them in general, right? And that's the edge you have over Facebook. You're never gonna have Mark Zuckerberg help you learn how to drive, but Brianna, you can help them understand all these other concepts about business world and pitch decks and stuff like that. In fact, that's the third thing I did, Brianna, a lot. I was teaching them how to learn how to do pitch deck, all the engineers, just because I knew in the future all of them wanted to start companies. And so I was like, okay, when you start your company, I would tell them like, this is how you make your pitch deck, right? This is how you do certain things like that, because I want you to be an entrepreneur. So that's the great thing about you, Brianna and Sunny and Stuart. You guys actually know a lot of these concepts, and you guys can actually be a great peer and teach them, even though they're technical, and then they'll be really receptive to help teaching you technical things. It's always got to be this culture of learning. So that's my feedback on that.
And currently, I would add one more thing. Just I think it's essential that you have some amount of technology, background in the sense of what you're doing, right? If you can't communicate very effectively with an engineer because you're not familiar with some of the concepts, then it's going to be really hard to recruit them. Whereas if you're coming in with some type of, like, I don't consider myself a software engineer, but I could sit down and write software for any application I want to do. It would just take me a lot longer and I would struggle with it. But it allows me to communicate very quickly. And I understand the time commitments and the effort and the challenges that they might face if they join the team. And I can communicate those with them so they can get a good understanding of, like, how much am I committing to this opportunity? Is this something that I'm spending is this a full-time thing, or am I spending a couple weekends working on this project after hours? But you're not going to know that unless you've kind of spent some time working out the problems yourself, right?
No, that's great. And anybody have any other question, you guys can put it in the chat. We'll ask one. How you doing, Eric?
Well, good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. Stuart, if you have any questions too, Sunny also. Just so everybody knows, we're kind of going over how you kind of prepare what some of the things you need to do while you're in a conference, like a startup conference. It's an environment where I used earlier, there's going to be a lot of collisions. There'll be a lot of times you'll be connecting with people there, and it might be for only 5 to 10 minutes, but why is it so important to actually think about this as something that helps build your company? Is these kind of conferences, especially startup conferences. There's investors there, there's peers there, there's also going to be customers there. Stuart, you have a question?
Yeah, it was more of a comment, and I wanted to ask if you could kind of modify or say maybe something that I could build off of what I'm already doing when I go to a few conferences. I got a tip back when I was at CSUSM to kind of like write down maybe a shorthand of how I felt about the conversation. Where sometimes I'll feel like, oh, wow, this person has a very strong feeling towards an industry that I'd really like to work in. So I'll put them as like a 1 category for, my first placers. And then I kind of just go down the list and I have like 4 tiers in total. And I was thinking, maybe there's something else I can add on to that, to each of these, very small little placards, if anything, for notes that I want to keep in mind when contacting them, or saying, oh, yes, I was that person that talked about blank. Because I'll have to move on from one to the next to the other, and that's a lot of people. Do you have any suggestions on how I could modify that to be better than what it is?
Joanna was nodding her head. She's like the expert note taker. You want to give Stuart some feedback on stuff?
I'm going to go back on what I said about taking business cards. Is in that case, I often do. If I take someone's business card, I'll sometimes write myself like a 1-word note, like accelerator, or like sales lead, or I'll put
Oh, wow.
something.
A keyword?
I put a keyword like on the back
I
of
like
the
that.
business card so that I can remember what I wanted to talk to that person about or what we had been talking about.
I love that.
Besides that, it's you can carry a little notepad with you in your pocket or something. I carry mine in my purse. You might not want to do that. But I think that's a good thing to do. If you're not taking other people's business cards, you can carry your own like little blank business card size, pieces of cardstock or whatever, and write notes on them. I know Curling does that sometimes. Like if somebody says they don't have a card, they can write their contact information down on your card. So I don't know. Notes is the thing though.
It's the thing.
Unless you
Thank
got
you.
superstar memory like Curling does. But yeah, I use like a one word shorthand, but I haven't ever used like a 1, 2, 3 like rating like right on the spot. That's pretty impressive.
That's great. Stuart,
Well,
really,
I
really
just
impressed.
wanted-
I'm impressed by the framework, as Professor Clark would say.
Oh, thank you. All I want to say, Joanna, is that it's afterward that I put
Okay.
on there. I'm not gonna
Okay.
like
He's like live,
fun,
like
just-
okay, I got the
that's a
category
little,
right now. This is pretty like computer brain.
Yeah. That's all I want to say. And thank you so much. That's an awesome tip. I got that down. Thank you.
That's great. One thing I used to do, Stuart, too, and Sunny, and that when I was younger, is like if I met someone, I said, "Oh, I really want to connect with that person." I would do like either like a selfie with them, or I take a picture with them, something fun. So
I remember.
and that actually helped me. Like I took a picture with someone, like, oh, that's how that person looks like, and that's like he always wears that. Like it helped me a lot by just taking a picture of that person, or like they're holding something. We would do something funny, and then when I email them afterwards, after the conference, I email them with that picture, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna post this on Twitter. This is great, right?" So it's like I already started like a really good relationship just because I just took that one picture, Eric. It was like that was it.
And actually, that's a good tip, Colin. You should share what else you email. Like, it was great meeting you. Here's the picture of us together.
Yeah.
Right. And then people are like, oh, yeah, I do remember you. Right. And they're so happy to get the picture that they thought they were never going to get. And so that's a really personal thing that you do and gets really good responses.
Yeah. It's like a gift. It's like a gift, right? You're giving someone. My dad said at the end of your life, all you have is memories, right? And so when you give someone some sort of memory, it's always really, really great. So I used to do that when I was really little because I always felt like giving someone that memory was really great. And it always worked. I never got like ghosted or anything. Like, it was like you gave someone like a picture, it goes like they'll either say like thank you or something, like it's going to be some sort of warm response. So I think that was great. Inside the whole conference type of kind of if you think of all these different events, there always are these kind of speakers. There always are these panels. There always are these things you can go to. I'm gonna go with you, Joanna. How do you pick which ones you go to? Or are you preparing ahead of time which one you want to go hear and speak, or do you like just do randomly sometimes?
Depends how hectic my week is, but I would prefer to prepare.
Okay.
And then I pick them. And then if you have a team, like I know we often would have like a little pre-meeting, or we'd all have breakfast together or something. We'd say like, okay, how can we go to the maximum number of sessions? Make sure we don't repeat any, and everybody bring back the notes and share. So it's like you got to go to the whole conference, even though things were in parallel. So I know, Curling, you and I often sync up and say like, I'm going to go to this one and you go to that one.
That's a great. And do you, when you're at these conference offhand, sometimes it's on the fly for me. I'll tell you because maybe one got canceled or
That's
something
true.
changed.
Or
like,
you ran into somebody. They're like, I'm speaking at
Yes.
this thing, and you're like, oh, I didn't even know. I'm
That's-
going to support you.
Exactly. We did that at the Sorensen one, and we got to meet one of the Rockefellers, and we were like, oh no, we'll totally support you. We'll go away, and we switched that part, right? So there is a little agile part on that. Professor Clark, I know a lot of people will see you speaking, and they're like, okay, I gotta go to this panel. But is there any tricks you do on who you like to hear?
Everybody drops everything to go to Professor Clark's sessions.
Let's go.
Say that last part one more time. Any?
Oh no! Is there any tips you give little Sam on that, on picking the content that he wants to hear, I've even heard speakers, people mentoring saying like, okay, you already know about technical things. You're pretty strong at that. Why don't you go to this one that you're really weak at in sales? But that was one mentor told me that.
I don't know. I'd use the new Focus app.
That's true. Exactly.
Okay. Figure out what you need to work on, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, for me, I come from a little bit different situation. I always just pick things I'm interested in, either the people or the topics. But I think some, a typical entrepreneur should be looking at what they need help with, right? And your survey tool, your app, I think helps people identify maybe what topics they should be looking at. So.
I love using the app, Joanna. So before you go to a conference, you
here's what you need to work on. Here are the speakers that we recommend that you go see. Although I like what Sam just said, Professor Clark, where he said like the topic or the speaker. So I think that's something I'm not that solid at. I'm always looking at the topic, like what is it about, but really, the background of who this, of the speaker or the organization that the speaker, works for. Sometimes, even if the topic is not that great, like it's still a good connection. Or it's not well suited for you. I'm sure the topics are great.
The topics are great. I mean, I went to this session, as you know, we had 10 companies that were part of our incubator, and we had these kind of office hours, and there was a session, a guy, his name was Stephen Plotport. You guys can look at his company is called Forecaster, and it's spelled FORECASTR. You missed an E. But the app, he's a 2-time founder. Went part of tech school, raised quite a bit of money before, and all based on how he forecasts his numbers on his companies. Like a lot of it was that, and he was talking about how each level your forecasting has to get better. I learned so much from that. And he had one thing, this is very specific to Startup Month because some of the videos are out there now, but just look up Stephen Plopper. He's pretty solid because some of you guys do need to work on forecasting what your revenue is going to look like, how you're going to acquire customers. It was great. But he said this is this great comment, and this is something I'm going to integrate to one of my tips for a little curling, is that he said this: presenting a financial model is like presenting a pitch deck. You should think about it that way. Just like we have the problem solution, you just are putting numbers next to it. And the reason why I'm bringing this all up is that I've started doing, if I'm at a conference, I do live tweet things. So if I like the person that much, I'm going to take a little quote from him, and I put it in a tweet, and I tag him, and he's like, oh, thick curling, that's awesome. It's like next level networking of like doing this kind of live tweeting. And I started doing that a while back ago. Like I never tweet, but if I'm at a conference, I like what you said, like you maybe from Sequoia Capital, or I did it with Caitlin Wedge from Technicals Angels. Like I like that one piece you said. I'll put in a tweet. I'll tag them and tell them like that was awesome, right? And usually, especially if it goes viral, it's always great because when I talk to them, like they're like, "Curling, thanks so much. I got so much attention from that, such and such." So, just like I said, giving someone memory, you can totally give someone memory that way. So I always, wherever conference or wherever speaker, I try to get at least 1 or 2 sentences that would be tweetable. Or I would use that in an email. Like I really love how you said using your forecast, kind of think of it like a pitch deck. So think about these little memorable things you can do with people you want to kind of connect with. And so that was like one of my tips offhand was to personalize these collisions so that you can have like maybe a better type of relationship moving forward with some of these people that you meet. But John knows I do some of these little things like that. We're doing good on time. Any last questions offhand that anyone has? Sonny, you have any questions? As you guys know, the Startup Month ended last week, but we're going to be having like First Mondays, where First Mondays are going to be where it's kind of like these mini type of sessions. So we'll have a speaker coming on, and then usually we have about 100 to 200 founders that come on the call, and we're going to start doing those in person too, but they're virtual. And then we have these third Mondays that are more workforce type of things, like for career, you're trying to build your career. And then we're going to have convergence coming up. But what I'm going to try to do a lot more so is that when we have these events, even at Connect All, I want you guys to go to those events, or at least if it's because I feel like there's more collisions that need to be done in our community, because that's where, to be honest, that's where certain things actually happen. I was listening to someone at the Friday thing, Joanna, and I remember someone saying, I'll paraphrase, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but it was like, they were actually saying about fundraising. They were like saying, yeah, I just like that guy. We just were hanging out, and that's how the fundraising went. Like, it was no campaign. It wasn't like Indiegogo. It wasn't Kickstarter. It was just because they had a good relationship and had a good collision at some place, right? I was at the Sorensen Summit, which is a great summit for impact investing and things of that nature. And I was listening to one of our mentors, Joanna, and he was saying very similar thing. He says, like, you know what? I met this guy and we really headed off, and then I know he let me stay at his cabin and stuff like that. We've been good friends, and we've been funding him ever since, right? It was like that. So you guys have to know that these collisions and where certain things happen, and as everyone knows, there's this kind of maybe we call it funding divide. But a lot of these things do happen at these places and at these events. So why I felt like this is important, even we could do a part 2 on it, is that especially people like me who are kind of like introverts, it's very important to know that sometimes, even though you might not want to go, or maybe or you feel like you're not prepared, or your company's not at the right stage, it's really good just to meet people. And that might be the initial dot. That might be the initial meeting. And you might meet several times after that. But you need to have these initial meetings to help your company at least progress. I don't want, me and Jonah was saying, we don't want perfection with your companies, but we want progress, right? And some of this progress happens when you actually meet people that can probably help your company. But Jonah, any feedback on that?
No, I think that applies to everything, right? Not just fundraising, but customer development. Have you ever been to a conference where you meet somebody as you're walking in and they don't really know who you are, and they try to quickly assess who you are so they can decide whether they're going to ditch you, right? And it never feels good, right? So just think about, like, you're meeting people and you're giving them an appropriate amount of time, and you're being respectful, and you're thinking about the relationship. You're not thinking about utilization factors.
Yes, I like that.
Think about people as people and relationships as relationships. And some people you're not going to click with, but so that happened on Friday. Remember, we met some people when we were going in, and the person, like, really awkwardly said to me, like, so should I just follow you around, or should I go?
Yeah, we had to prep some of the founders, because we prepped the founders as they were very comfortable with us, right? We're friendly. We're not sharks. We're more like the fish tanks, right? And we were prepping all the founders. Okay, this is what I want you to say. Get your 30 seconds. You put that ask in there that you want something at the end, maybe possibly a founder. You need a board member, whatever. So we were prepping them, and then we say, okay, go. We were like, we said we were like the tailgating committee, and then we want you in the game. So we were helping a lot of the founders in that environment where there were investors and stuff like that, to just be yourself and let people know your personality, right? Eric, you have a good personality. I think if you're in those environments, you can kind of navigate. But if you're never in those environments, or you're never getting by that, no one really will know all the things, all the potential that relationship. Because you can. I always tell people, like, you can help them, right? It's not just saying you're like.
Yeah,
you're
I was just gonna say that, Kelling, that is try to remember that it's not all. I know you have everybody kind of has this agenda of, like, the types of people they want to meet and the outcomes that they hope to get, but I think when you go into it with the attitude of, how can I help this person? How can I listen to this person? How can I connect them with someone else that might be able to help them if I can't? Then I think that bears more fruit. I was having this really deep one-on-one conversation with somebody, and this person sort of jumped in and said, like, hey, I just wanted to meet everybody here. Like, right in the middle of our, like, very deep conversation, like, can I join your conversation? And we're like, okay. But it was awkward because of where we were in our conversation. And I think just to sort of be thinking about, how you're approaching people and how you're interacting with them, and maybe think more about like how you can help, and be always looking for those opportunities to sort of to listen and help. I think that is received differently, and it's a less common approach.
No, that's great. Professor Clark, final thoughts offhand?
I just one comment you made earlier I thought would be good. It's not really related to conference, but you have to remember that the storytelling is part of it, but every story in a business sense, in the business world, is told in financial terms. So everything that you include within your storytelling has to translate into a financial model, right? And so when you're talking and telling the stories, you have to realize how that turns into finances.
That's a good point.
And that's important, because certain people you'll talk to, it will just be the story. And other people, especially investors, you're going to be talking using financial models to tell your story, to justify your story and those things. So keep that in mind, that it's in the business world, you have to tell stories with dollars and cents.
I love it. Well, thank you everyone for coming on. I know the cohort offhand, we're going to be starting up more tech school coming up. Joanna's helping with the planning of that. We'll be having some professors from Cal State San Marcos. We'll be having other groups that were speaking at Startup Month, so they're going to come speak at our tech school, which is great. So some of the things that I'm telling you, like, oh wow, you missed this great one, I'm going to probably bring those people in. So it should be really good. I think the one thing I was going to say, Professor Clark, again, one more time, you guys going to have your quick pitch event coming up, right? What's that date?
The date is December 8th at 6 p.m. On campus at the Innovation Hub. There's free parking available next to the Innovation Hub. So anybody's welcome to attend. The community's welcome to attend. The quick pitch will be judged by the audience. So those who, in this,
Bring your friends.
Can come and listen to the ideas and share some thoughts, and then help pick a winner. So
got it.
Great.
That sounds great. Well, I know Stephen always said we're putting this on YouTube, so we want more subscribers. You can like the video. We're having these things out, but I know offhand, I want to thank everybody for helping us with the first season of Tech School. That was great. This season, I actually feel like it was going to be better, just because of the fact that we've learned so much, right, on how to do some of these kind of sessions. So, thanks for seeing me. Good seeing you, Eric, Brianna, Sunny, Joanna. Thanks for coming on, Stuart. And Professor Clark, thank you. Take care.
Everybody.